Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Thanks, It's Vintage with your hosts, Andrew
and Lydia.
And we are back here at the Kenmore Square location of Vino Divino, right by Fenway Park. Very excited to be back.
Baseball season is underway.
Baseball season's underway. I'm a little tired. Just got back from London.
You've been all around the world. And by that, I mean to London.
To London. But very, very excited to be here and talk about this wonderful topic that we just don't really dive that much into, and everybody hears us say the words, but yeah, no, this is going to be an exciting one.
Bit of an explanation.
But before we get into that, just a couple of housekeeping things. The first, of course, is that we are going to be talking about wines that you can absolutely purchase here at our Vino Divino locations. And additionally, if you haven't already, and you did hear our last two episodes, sign up for our wine club. There will be the kinds of wines we're about to talk about will be in that wine club. There's no doubt about that. They are definitely falling into the category of wines that you should explore. So get on to our website at vinodivino.com and sign up for the wine club so that you have our June edition in your hands and you're not like, oh no, I missed it. Because we're already about halfway through the month.
I'm not okay with that.
I know. Yeah. Neither am I.
Just time is disappearing.
It is. And one last thing, of course, before we move on to our topic at hand today is we have a wine class series that we should definitely be talking to you all about. And these are wine classes that we're going to be hosting twice a month on Wednesday evenings at our Kenmore Square location right now, but there will probably be other locations in the future, or there may be bigger classes where we choose to do a rooftop version. That's right, you heard correctly. We have access to the rooftop here in Kenmore Square, literally
gorgeous,
next to the famous Sitco sign. It is actually on that bill. It's on that rooftop. You can walk out and just look right up at it. It's really cool.
And you can see Fenway.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a beautiful view of Fenway Park from up there. Yeah.
Can't wait until it's warm enough. I guess we're kind of there.
We're kind of there.
But
yeah,
the balcony. We cannot wait to get out on the balcony.
Yeah.
Drink some gorgeous wine.
Yeah. So check out our website for our wine classes as well. You can see all that at our link in bio.
Excellent. Should we begin?
I think we should begin.
So, the topic at hand today is carbonic maceration.
Carbonic maceration.
What is it?
Yeah.
And is it part of a larger series of techniques that we can talk about?
Good questions that we want to answer here.
Yes.
So this is something that we always tell people about is, you're going to like this because it's, goes through carbonic maceration. Or we'll talk about, say specific regions like Beaujolais and be like, oh, the Beaujolais, you like, excuse me, you like it because it goes through carbonic maceration. It creates a very specific style. But usually when we talk about this with our customers in our stores, we don't have a lot of time to explain how this all works. So I'm glad we're doing a deep dive here to explain what is carbonic maceration. So what is carbonic maceration?
It is a term, like you said, it is a term that gets very lumped in with Beaujolais, but it is actually quite worldwide at this point. It's a relatively, it's not ancient as a technique. It was first technically invented by Louis Pasteur in 1870-something, I think, 72. Where he was experimenting with grapes that had been stored in sealed containers. And so he was looking at the fermentation that was going on. Then another man in the 1930s, I believe, his name is escaping me.
I actually have his name right here. So now
Michel someone.
Michel Flanzy. So
Flanzy.
Both Frenchmen.
Both Frenchmen?
Yeah.
And he was experimenting with, I think, apples initially. He was looking at CO2 and how that tended to protect but also trigger fermentation of apples. So then we've got a couple of decades that pass, And it really didn't take off as a technique until the 60s. But people had started using it in France in general. It wasn't just Beaujolais, as far as I can read, but it's really hard to lock down those few decades historically.
It is, yeah. There's not a lot of information about what was going on.
I mean, I read a lot of people saying Languedoc was doing it before Beaujolais was doing it, but then I couldn't find actual historical evidence to say that they were. There's not a lot of documentation, I guess, on what was happening. But we then moved to Beaujolais, and in the 60s, we have people like Chauvet, Thévenet. There's a handful of guys that started using it in order to create a style and in order to combat issues that were arising in fermentation and in storing the wine. So there were issues with acetic acid, there were issues with malic acid, and they were at one point trying to minimize the effects of malic acid in fermentation. And what they realized that they could do was deprive whole bunches of grapes of oxygen, which triggered intracellular fermentation initially. Now, that's a very fancy term. But let's talk about the actual science of it.
Right.
So we have an umbrella term, which is whole bunch fermentation. Then we have the specific terms of carbonic maceration and semi-carbonic maceration. Carbonic maceration specifically indicates that you have used CO2 to deprive a closed vessel of oxygen. So you have put whole bunches into a vat, most likely stainless steel. You have pumped it full of CO2, removed the oxygen, and what that does is that triggers a reaction inside the grape itself. So the grape hasn't been pressed at this point. There's no crushing of the grape. And it triggers inside the skin. Malic acid and sugar are doing something, and they are starting fermentation. It doesn't get too high. At about 2%, when alcohol reaches 2%, the grapes tend to split on their own. And then we see natural fermentation happening with the native yeast that is still on the skins. So that's one method. Semi-carbonic is much more common, really.
Yeah.
And that is when you're not necessarily pumping the closed vat full of carbon dioxide. You are putting whole bunches in. The weight of the top whole bunches crush the bottom bunches. That triggers fermentation of the juice that is in contact with the native yeast, which releases natural CO2, which is a byproduct of fermentation, which fills the vat and then triggers intracellular fermentation on the grapes on the top. So that is a far more common practice because you don't need the very fancy stainless steel containers that you have to have in order to do the carbonic maceration method. But what the whole point of this method is to limit the juice in contact with the skin.
Yes.
Therefore, not extracting as much color or tannin to the wine. So the end result is a much lighter, fruitier, fun, easy drinking style.
Crushable.
Crushable. That is the word, really. It is. It's wine that you want to drink, possibly chilled, in summer, all year round, whenever.
Right.
It's just easy table wine. It's not ever meant to be fancy.
Right. And these are not wines that are ageable, per se.
No, and they don't
process-
see oak. They don't see all these kind of costly additions in winery. And therefore, they are great crushable red wines that are lighter and easier to drink all year round.
Yeah.
So Beaujolais really took that method and ran with it. That was kind of the 50s and the 60s. Then we reached the 70s. And that is when Deboeuf, who we have referenced before, I actually misreferenced him at one point in a previous episode. I meant to say Chauvet, and I said Deboeuf. But Deboeuf was the one who, for good or bad, really solidified it as the Beaujolais Nouveau style of making. So let's touch on Beaujolais Nouveau. This is it is a fad. It is a marketing strategy that was insanely effective. He was a winemaker, but also a businessman. And at the time, Beaujolais Nouveau was being made already, was being made in the 50s.
Yeah. Well, I think so Beaujolais Nouveau, let's just make sure everyone knows what this term means at its base root. And it just basically means, it's the new wine of Beaujolais, of the season.
So it is the first release of wine after harvest.
Yes. And by law, I just had to make sure I double checked this because I always get the date wrong. I know it's in November and I know it's by Thanksgiving.
Well, but that's an interesting feature about it.
Right. Is that you cannot release Beaujolais Nouveau until literally 12:01 a.m. on the third Thursday of November. So what that means is also when you go to get it, anyone who does know what it is has seen it. You'll notice it pops up at a very specific time every year. And that's because it is here in the States. We do get the bottles a week prior usually.
Except for last year. It was really hard.
It was really hard. I don't understand what's going on.
That was a whole heap of issues.
Basically, all the distributors are required. They sign agreements, because by law in France, it can't be released by a certain time. So what they have to do is when they sell it, they sign legal agreements with the distributors and importers to say, you're not going to sell it until the third Thursday of November.
Initially, though, it wasn't legally that. It was November 15.
Yes, it got moved. Yeah.
And Deboeuf was instrumental in making that transition. So he helped define those laws that took effect in the 70s, which changed it from the 15th of November to the third Thursday of every November.
Yeah.
And that's when it became a huge deal. And there were events that were popping up around it that had been going since the 50s. But there was a very famous race that started where producers were basically racing each other to get the first bottles into Paris. And they were using whatever means necessary. And I read somewhere that an elephant was used at one point, and just
the whole thing.
Yeah. I think there was a kind of old car thing at one point. Everyone was using old Citroens and Renaults or something.
They got real creative on some use. Yeah.
Anyway, very exciting. And that reached ahead in the 70s and 80s as well, where it eventually stretched to London. And like we've mentioned many times on this podcast, again, England were the ones that clinched it as a popular thing. And England just became obsessed with the Beaujolais Nouveau craze. They took it, they ran with it, and it then became a worldwide obsession. Problem is, like a lot of things, once it gained a lot of traction, the quality went down. And people kind of poo-pooed carbonic maceration as this low-quality way of making wine, and it kind of lost traction for a long time.
Right.
It's come back. People are using it more and more. And with changing tastes, global changing tastes, people are wanting lighter, easy drinking reds. There's not the same kind of demand for these heavily oaked, absolutely necessarily cellarable wines.
Right.
Some people don't have space. Some people don't have money.
Some people it's both.
Some people don't like tannin. And this is where carbonic maceration is a beautiful thing. And when used well, is wonderful. So again, it really got connected with Beaujolais from 4 decades. It's fairly common all around the world. A lot of places do it.
Yeah.
Rioja actually quite commonly use it for their kind of entry-level table wines.
And to be fair, and we, for those who might be wondering, when we say entry-level, we mean,
table.
It's table. So it will say Rioja on the bottle. That's not their Crianza. That's not their Reserva. That's not their Gran Reserva, because those rules don't let you do that style for those 3 wines. So it's just the standard Riojas you'll see.
Yes.
See it.
And we have one on our shelf, the Artuque.
Yeah, which is delicious.
Is hugely popular.
Absolutely delicious.
And such a gorgeous color. It's like vibrantly purple.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We decided to go with another wine today. We didn't want to open 2 bottles. It's a bit too early in the morning.
But this topic, I'll start pouring this.
This is a producer. We may as well talk about it now. So this is Lioco Indica Red Blend. I think they even call it a table wine. It's not a wine I've had, so I'm interested to try it.
Have you had any of their wines?
Yes. We had another of their series maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Or maybe it was this wine. So this is the 2023. They, as with a lot of California producers, went through a little bit of a hardship with the 2020 fires. And they, 2020, 2021, and 22, they had to kind of change their sourcing of grapes in order to meet the demand. But 2023, which is what this is, we're back to sourcing from their 3 vineyards that they pull from. This is Mendocino. It's a really fun label. I mean, I'm assuming this is their kind of topographical geology.
Yes. So the label is their topographical geology. It is a husband and wife team. The wines are absolutely stellar. Everything they make is beautiful. I have not had this one from them, but I have had their Chardonnay.
Okay.
Which is
not have whites.
Gorgeous. Yeah. It's one of those Chardonnays where I tell people, if you're not a Chardonnay fan, you're probably going to like this, because it's like, if they use oak, it's neutral oak and it's very little, right? So it just gives a touch of body, no added flavor. They don't do, or they do, I think, some level of malolactic on their Chardonnay, but not a ton. It ends up being this gorgeous, like lightly textured, but very crisp, orchardy flavor. Like Chardonnay. Beautiful. But I have not had this one from them. So.
Okay. So is it 100% Carignan?
100% Carignan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is where my research led me to believe that actually in Languedoc, they were using carbonic maceration before Beaujolais because they were using it on Carignan, which is historically quite a difficult grape to balance.
Right.
It usually had a lot of color, a lot of acid.
It's usually a blending partner.
Yeah, it's a blending partner because it has a lot of structure, but maybe not as much finesse in the hands of people that don't know how to work with it or farm it, more importantly. And it actually really does well with carbonic maceration. Now, we've picked this wine because it doesn't only use carbonic maceration. So they've got a bit of whole bunch, so we should maybe touch on that.
Yeah.
But then they parcel it and do some of it carbonically macerated, and they separate the aging and blend it at the very end. So there is a bit of oak, but there is also cement and there is also stainless steel.
Right.
And they blend it all at the end, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's gorgeous on the nose.
Ooh, yeah.
Very berry forward, which is exactly what what we talk about when we say that, carbonic maceration or semi-carbonic maceration creates a more juicy, crushable style. It gives you a lot of those berries, a lot of that brighter toned red fruit, like really like pushes it to the front.
Yes. And then also the notes that can be common, they're not always there. But the two notes that you kind of get drilled to notice are banana and bubblegum. So again, you're not going to experience those in every
There's a
in
little
every
banana in
carbonic
here.
macerated wine. But in Beaujolais Nouveau, for sure,
yes.
you get those notes. But yeah, there is a bit of banana actually, which is, I think, the least common one. I don't get it very often.
I get more of the bubble gum whenever you get something like this. I will also say there's another wine that I know that we have worked with that I don't know if it's in our stores currently, but I'm going to say the producer because some of their wines are in our store. But if anyone has ever had Stoltman wine,
oh yeah,
Love You Bunches, we've got their rosé somewhere.
Sold out, but
it's on the other side.
Oh, it's on the other side. Yeah.
But there's Stoltman Winery, like their Love You Bunches red
Sangiovese. Yeah, very famous.
Carbonic Maceration.
Mm-hmm.
That is an excellent way of showing people what this technique does, because if you know Sangiovese, you know Chianti, right? That's not a light wine. Not a light wine.
It's a structural wine.
Structural wine. It's got real serious tannins to it.
Serious tannins, serious acid.
It's got body. It's got acid. But then you try the Stoltman Winery, the Stoltman Vineyards, Love You Bunches, Sangiovese, which is, again, carbonic maceration, and it is light. It is fresh. It is juicy. It has very low tannins. The acid is so soft.
Yeah.
It's very good as a chilled wine. And the body is not there for what you expect out of Sangiovese. And that's what carbonic maceration does.
Yeah.
And that's a great example to show people. So it's like if you've had Chianti and now you've had the Stoltman Love You Bunches Sangiovese, you could see what this winemaking technique actually does and why it's so popular, or why it's becoming more popular with our changing tastes.
Absolutely. So just to touch on what I said at the beginning, a whole bunch is kind of a loose term in the wine industry. It can mean quite a few ways of fermenting. But generally, a whole bunch, it's rare to find a red wine that goes through 100% whole bunch fermentation. Carbonic maceration is usually complete. Semi is usually complete. Whole bunch can be used judicially by the maker to lighten it a little, but generally there's like 30 to 70%, or I've seen as low as 10% of whole bunch inclusion in the fermentation fats. So generally what you're looking for if you're doing that is you want the fruit there, you want that kind of freshness, you want that lightness, but you don't want the whole thing to be like that. So you are choosing to use a partial amount of whole bunch while the juice is doing its thing normally. These guys have decided to do both, which is really interesting. They're really wanting a crushable wine, but I think they also really want the spice, which you get a bit more from whole bunch. And the thing we should say about using whole bunches is that you're using the stem.
Yep.
And that adds a whole level of complexity to a wine that you're not necessarily getting if it's 100% carbonic or semi-carbonic, because there is less contact with the juice to the rest of it. So the skins and the stems, there's not as much interaction. Therefore, you're not getting those kinds of notes. But when you do get whole bunch, you are getting an earthiness, a literal stemminess. It's kind of hard to describe if you haven't smelt it. But you're getting a greenish woodiness.
Right.
But it's not oak. It's not from the oak. It's a really unique characteristic that once you know what to look for, it's actually quite easy to know when there's even been partial whole bunch fermentation. but it tends to bring some spice and some earthiness to the mix that wouldn't necessarily be there in a Beaujolais Nouveau or a carbonically macerated wine.
Right.
And this has it. This has a little bit.
It definitely does. And
Carignan is just a spicy grape. So
it is a spicy grape. And I was going to say, have you had a sip of this yet? Because it is gorgeous. You can tell that they are taking something, you can tell on the palate that they've taken something that is very structured as a grape and softened that.
Yeah, I mean,
not
lost there.
It's not lost all the structure. It's just, we've dialed it back. By doing these different techniques, we soften it and it creates something that is...
But it's still explosively juicy.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah, this is gorgeous. This is absolutely beautiful. And I think this really shows, when you start taking a bunch of these techniques and putting them together, that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
I think we need to
know what you're doing.
You have to know what you're doing.
To know what the end result should look like.
Exactly. Look, there are a lot of winemakers. This is for everyone listening and watching. There are a lot of winemakers out there, tons of them. I mean, the number of winemakers that exist in the world, it's thousands and thousands of them. I mean, it's just, there's so many because there's so many small families
to the point
too.
Where communities are ripping out their vines.
Yeah.
Because the popularity of the 90s and the early 2000s kind of
has come down.
Slowed.
The drop has slowed. We're seeing the bottom now, which is good. And also we're seeing some categories start to explode, which is going to lift everything back up. And you're going to see people adjust, which we are seeing in some regions. Yes. And that's a great topic for another time. But the whole point is that there are a lot of winemakers out there. They're not all great. And that is...
It's like any field.
It's like any field. They're not all great. So this is excellent. Because when you see somebody take multiple winemaking techniques, barrel aging, egg, concrete egg aging,
egg,
stainless steel, semi-carbonic maceration, whole cluster or whole bunch, right? And make all these things and then blend everything into a final product, right? So they've taken their juices and their grapes and they've separated them and done all these things and then they pull it all together and it turns into something beautiful like this. That is an excellent winemaker. That is someone showing you what their skill set is and what they can do. And that is just gorgeous. That's not something you get all the time. And don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with a simply well-made wine where it was one technique and it's just done well and it's easy to drink, it's crushable, it's yummy, whatever, right? We love those wines too. But this is something where I go, I want to know what else you've got. I want to see what else you're creating. I want to taste it, smell it, enjoy it. Because if this is what you can do with this many different methods blended together and make something that's not disjointed, but something that's harmonious and gorgeous in the glass, right? Then I want to see all your other works.
Yeah.
I am not disappointed here because their Chardonnay was gorgeous, and I know they're doing different things with that.
Hands on it now.
And this shows me that it's down the line, and now I got to see all their others. And I know they have
and they're all different,
7 or 8 different wines.
Very good labeling. I will say that.
Yeah,
it's well thought out presentation, which I respect. I do like it when. I mean, the amount of comments that I've had from customers saying, "Don't judge me. I totally choose by a label," and it's like, well, that's what it's for. I don't. If someone's putting in the effort, and their presentation, it generally means they've put the effort into the wine. I mean, obviously, that's not a causation. That's more a correlation. But generally, I think it's fair to say, if they're not lazy about the label, they're not lazy about the wine.
Yeah, the labels. I mean. I like to always tell everyone, just be cautious when judging by a label. You can get it right sometimes, but you can also get it very wrong.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're still talking about a product that you have to taste to know whether you like it or not.
Exactly. And trust me, some of the greatest wines I've ever had have had some of the most boring labels.
Well,
And then
that's also part
some
of
of
like, the old world versus new world
Right.
mentality. So new world often have funkier, cooler,
however,
cool labels.
and this is where that second piece to it comes in. It's like some of the worst wines I've ever had have had some of the best looking labels, right?
Yeah, that
so
is
it's like
also
judging by the label alone
bad issue.
could really be a problem sometimes. Where it's like, wow, you had a great graphic designer, but you are not good at making what's in the bottle.
Yeah.
Like that's what matters, not the label.
Yeah. I guess it can go either way.
And it can go either way.
Yeah.
So I've had it in the other direction as well. But that's why I say, I like to tell people, be careful about the label, because sometimes it looks fun, or sometimes it looks like, oh, wow, that's just plain old boring, right? And then it's like, oh.
Or they're basically just telling you that we've joined the natural wine fad.
Right.
And we're being hip and cool.
Well, I will say,
but we may not know what we're doing.
Labels also bother me, because sometimes, some of those really incredible wines have labels where I'm just like, it's not going to sell on a shelf. Like, it's going to require somebody to talk to you. And I'm like, could you hire somebody as a winery and just redo your label?
Some of the best wines have the most boring labels.
Oh, I know.
Old world. Tradition matters. They won't change that.
And they never will. No.
Unless they're bucking the trend and doing a different style altogether.
Right.
Which is happening all around Europe. But again, you can pretty much tell from the label which direction they've gone there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but this is a very well done label. Yeah. Showcasing the topography of the land at which they are working on. And of course, the juice inside the bottle does not disappoint.
That's lovely. Yum. And they've recommended, I've just noticed, they've got food pairings on their label.
Oh, that's cool. Not everyone does that. And
pizza fungi,
shepherd's pie.
Oh, I've really been craving
stuffed crubanelles.
I actually don't know what crubanelles are.
I don't either. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
We'll do that later.
Well, we certainly will. But I think.
Have we touched on everything?
I think we've touched on everything.
Okay.
I think we've hit it all.
I didn't make notes. I just researched a bunch and didn't actually make notes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think, off the top of our heads, we know quite a lot about
that was
topics,
to go off.
But it's always good for us to touch up on, make sure that we haven't missed anything. But no, I don't.
Well, this is why I didn't write down names. I should have written down names.
That's
I always forget names.
Louis Pasteur, yes. Michel
Flanzy,
thank you. Yes. That one's a little less known, but it's only because Louis Pasteur gets all the credit for.
And I don't think Flanzy was a winemaker.
No.
It seemed like he was a scientific researcher.
He was a scientific researcher, and he was just his claim to fame was that he was the scientist who first formally studied what this process is. Whereas Louis Pasteur discovered how to do it.
Yes.
He didn't have the science behind why it does what it does. And so Michel Flanzy.
It really took until the 60s and 70s to kind of solidify the science.
Yeah. It was started with Flanzy in the 1930s, really actually studying it and saying, oh, it does this, it does that. This is what happens chemically on a molecular level.
But I will say it was very interesting in my research. I read a ton of articles, and there was not a consensus on the history.
No.
People were saying a lot of different things.
I think it comes down to the fact that this is a process that can occur naturally.
Yeah.
If the conditions are correct. And so it has definitely happened in history a lot longer than probably we know.
Yes.
In fact, one of the things that I saw was that it's likely that this was happening in the transportation of grapes at some point in human history, where, you're transporting it across multiple towns, and it's going to take a whole day, and it just happens to be the right temperature, right conditions of whatever you're transporting it in, and it happened, right? So carbonic maceration, semi-carbonic maceration, we don't have a date. We don't have a date for when did someone first realize this is a thing? Outside of Louis Pasteur formalizing this is a thing. So he gets the credit, but in reality, somebody probably figured it out well before him that this keeps happening when I do this, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But never had a name for it, never wrote it down.
Who's to say Armenia and Georgia weren't doing it,
Exactly.
weren't experimenting at least. But yeah.
Yeah.
It really formalized in the 70s, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so.
But it's a fun thing.
It is. And it creates beautiful wines.
Yeah, it really does. And they're the kind of wines I honestly have started drinking more and more.
Yeah, and I love them in the summer for reds.
Yes,
they're so light and so easy.
And it's so easy to chill them. They lend themselves to that because they're so juicy that my problem with chilling reds too far is that you lose the fruit.
Yeah.
And you end up with a lot of structure and not enough fruit. So there's not enough balance in the glass. But with Beaujolais Nouveau, it's all fruit.
Right.
It's fruit and fun, and it sings when it's chilled. Yeah. And it's good for summer.
It is.
Yeah.
This will be great. I can't wait to get a bottle and chill this, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should do that with this one.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well,
let's go and start our day.
I think that's all we've got for you all today. So thank you once again for tuning in. And we hope that you visit one of our stores, grab a bottle of this or any other bottle of a carbonic maceration or semi-carbonic maceration wine. Ask our staff. They know exactly which ones they are. They will point you in that direction. You will not be disappointed. And also, join our wine club and discover fun things like this, or even
come to our classes.
Other things that we find. And come to our classes.
Through this month.
Learn more about
one this month.
This stuff, right? Learn more about why you like what you like. That's the whole point of these classes.
Whole point.
Learn why you like what you like, and learn why you don't like what you don't like, and have a name for it, have a word for it, have a descriptor for it. So that way you feel more confident when you're walking into a wine shop or a restaurant. But till next time.
Till next time.
Cheers.